there, welcome to our presentation for the San Diego Design Week 2020. The title of our talk is Mission Valley and Open Space Renaissance. I'm Glen Schmidt from the Schmidt Design Group. We are landscape architects and planners in San Diego.
And my name is Rick Barrett. I'm a principal with MIG, a multidisciplinary planning and design and communications firm located in Mission Valley.
And I'm Mark Moss. I'm an associate landscape architect with Schmidt Design Group.
Great. The three of us are very privileged to be part of 5 transformational projects for our region and especially for Mission Valley. We'll take a little bit of time to talk globally about each project, but really we're going to concentrate on the open space and parkland that will be created for public use and enjoyment in each. As part of our presentation over the next 35-40 minutes, I'll begin by giving you a little background on the benefits of open space, the contribution we make as landscape architects, and a brief history of Mission Valley. Then Mark will give you a tour of the Riverwalk development, currently in the planning phase. Rick will discuss the town and country development, currently under construction. I'll present Vita, which is about 2/3 developed. And then we'll be back with Rick to present the San Diego River Discovery Center at Grant Park is under construction. Then I'll wrap up for the San Diego State University Mission Valley project that just broke ground recently. Since we're not live, we don't have the opportunity to answer questions from you at the end of the presentation. So we'll provide each of our emails to you if you'd like to follow up with us. First, with kind of a little preface to our world right now, is that we're all being bombarded by technology, and 95% of households have a smartphone, and that screen time is just expanding exponentially. And then we're also definitely in a more urban condition. UN determined that by 2050, that the number of people living in urban conditions will rise to nearly 70% of our world population. All of these things contribute to disconnecting us from our natural world. Our founder of our profession knew this intuitively, that open space is very important to offset the effects of our urban world. We know that actually for fact, because a lot of studies now are showing that connection to nature, even to landscape, can improve our health and well-being from lowering the hospital stays to even lowering blood pressure. And Richard Liu, our own San Diego author, has written extensively about this. He coined the term that we're suffering from nature deficit disorder. So all of this relates to our connection with nature and how important that is. But in addition to that, we've become very sedentary, and we are not exercising enough, and we need to get out and exercise, including taking an escalator to the gym. But this has manifested itself in some changes in obesity in the United States. And this is a dramatic change from 1994, when we had about 2 states that had 18% of their population were considered obese. And then 21 years later, 37 states had 26 of their population that was considered obese. And this runs parallel with other medical conditions such as obesity and other health issues. So really, it's very important what we do, we think, as landscape architects, to create places for people to connect with nature and to exercise and to play. And so that's why we think it's very important what we're going to be showing you today. Quick history of Mission Valley. As you probably know, the San Diego River runs right through Mission Valley. It's 52 miles long, 440 square foot mile watershed, significant body of water. The Kumeyaay Native Americans inhabited the valley for over 10,000 years. We built the first Spanish mission in Mission Valley in 1769. And then in 1816, a significant change was a Mission Valley Dam and Flume was built to carry water into the valley. And then the water became agriculture, dairy farms, all the way up until the 1960s. And then kind of late 50s, early 60s, we had the 163, 805 built. We had the first hotel built in 1953, Mission Valley Center 1961, and continued to develop throughout Mission Valley. Now, of course, that was offset by a number of flood events. And so the first San Diego River Improvement Project began in the early 80s and completed about 20 years ago. That focused on incorporating habitat and natural flood control measures and recreational amenities, which really has helped to create a much more healthier river and to offset many of these flood events. And then we have the River Park Master Plan, which actually envisions a linear park all the way along the San Diego River from the ocean all the way to the mountains. That is being implemented piece by piece, and our projects are part of that. Then the Mission Valley Community Plan was adopted very recently, September 2019, and that has envisioned adding 28,000 more residential units to Mission Valley. So significant changes along with a number of parks and open spaces. And our 5 projects represent about half of that added density. And we're going to give you a tour of each of them, and starting with Mark, who's going to talk about Riverwalk.
Great, thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that. So yeah, Riverwalk is a transit-oriented development project that is proposed by Hines. It's currently in the planning entitlement process, and it's located along Friars Road, just west of Fashion Valley Mall. It's currently a 27-hole golf course, which is a lot of open space, but it's primarily great for those who golf and limits access to the site for those who don't. So what's great about this project is it will open up a lot of open space to the general public. The project itself is proposing 4,300 residential units, primarily north of the river, 1 million square feet of Class A open space, primarily focused in the southeast corner of the site, a retail hub centered around a new transit center trolley station along the Green Line, and 97 acres of park space and open space that we'll focus on today. Throughout the last 4 or 5 years of the planning process, Hines and the design team have made multiple public workshop presentations and multiple presentations to both Mission Valley Planning Group and Linda Vista Planning Group as well. As a result of the public outreach and some of our work with the community focusing on the park design, the consensus has been that the public is looking for about 30% of the park spaces to be used for active use and 70% used for passive. The overall development includes a variety of different shapes and sizes of park space and open space, includes 2 mini parks and multiple pocket parks north of the existing tracks, a linear park that would connect Friars Road to the San Diego River corridor and the river park, public plaza space centered around the proposed transit center, and 2 neighborhood parks just north of the proposed river park. We have a number of artist renderings through here that we'll share. This is of the one of the mini parks that it includes a loop trail, open turf area, a natural play area, and integrated stormwater treatment. And this becomes a very accessible open park space for the residents and the public itself. And as you saw on the previous slide, that there's scattered throughout the development. So open space is very accessible throughout. This is the north side of the Trolley Station, a public civic plaza space that would provide uses such as outdoor markets, outdoor dining, food trucks, and civic gatherings. The next slide is of the south side of the Trolley Station, which you can see incorporates some retail and would help activate the space. This view shows the proposed Trolley Station on the left and a neighborhood park to the right. And with the topography of the site, the Trolley Station sits up as such that it really gives great views south to this expanded open space and river park. Many of the streets will also help reinforce that connection to the river and open space, especially the north-south streets, as they are view corridors to that open space. So the regional park obviously is the sort of focus of today's presentation. It's approximately 80 acres of park and habitat / open space, creation of a lot more habitat as well with this development. It will add 0.7 miles of about 0.75 miles of San Diego River Trail and habitat creation on both sides of the river, and miles of trails throughout. And so what we see here is an opportunity to connect with the river, celebrate the river, not just in the river park, but even throughout the entire development. And what this does too is it also removes a lot of non-native turf grasses and reduction of fertilizer needed to maintain a golf course. So we're really improving the health and ecology of this section of the river. There's some examples of what we envision, you know, these created habitat areas to be, and the significant difference between what's there now. And even the non-native habitat areas, as you know, this precedent image shows, of you know, this opportunity to connect to nature in a very urban setting that doesn't exist on the site now. Throughout, we'll be adding a number of observation areas and interpretive signage for educational opportunities, so that people can learn more about the San Diego River and the flora and fauna that exists throughout. As I mentioned, San Diego River Trail will connect through and add a missing link, a big missing link here, and we'll also connect to the portion through the Town and Country project that Rick will be presenting next. Throughout the river park, we will envision a number of amenities, such as connection to nature and water, interpretive signage, outdoor fitness, which ties into what, you know, Glenn was talking about earlier, as well as these open turf areas, which is a significant need for Mission Valley right now. There's a deficit, and these projects that we'll present will help fill in that need. And here, we can see the conceptual design that identifies, you know, connection to water, the added open space and habitat, and miles of trails throughout as it relates to the proposed development. This one of the unique things about this project is Heinz is proposing to take the existing clubhouse and redevelop it and repurpose it as a restaurant or brewery, as you see here. And adjacent to that would be one of the neighborhood parks that, you know, we hope to include a observation deck that would really help create that connection and view of the river, which is few and far between right now. So I think there's next slide, same thing. One of the other unique things about this is utilizing the existing bridges. There's two of these very architecturally striking bridges that would be used and utilized for connection north and south. Lastly, I want to quickly focus on the office development. It too, like the residential portion, is focused on creating a connection to the open space. And a couple renderings here that kind of highlight that. It opens up to the trails that you can kind of see on the right, and we hope to create throughout the whole development a couple tributaries, as we call them, which are sort of faux connections that lead down to the San Diego River and River Corridor. With that, I'll turn it over to Rick, who will present Town and Country.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark. And just immediately east of the Riverwalk project is the Town and Country project. The Town and Country Resort has been a hallmark icon in the heart of Mission Valley for over 50 years. And just a couple of years ago, Low Enterprises, the developer of this project, began a complete top-down transformation of the hotel with new residential buildings, significant pedestrian improvements within the project, new resort pools and other amenities for guests. But important to us is the development of a 12-acre parcel of open space behind the resort. And as depicted here, this is what the project used to look like. So this is a view, in fact, over the Riverwalk project, looking due east with Fashion Valley Mall on the left and the Town and Country Resort on the right. So previously, the site of the park today was largely large surface parking lots with water that drained directly into the San Diego River, and the river itself, which isn't even visible here, was choked with invasive and exotic vegetation like eucalyptus and arondo that was really adding to the dire situation with flooding, as some of you may know, in this immediate area. So over the course of the design of the project, we worked closely with Low Enterprises and Todd Major, Rob Hutzel, and the River Park Foundation and others to transform these parking lots into parks. And this includes a number of trails, a new pedestrian connection across the San Diego River, and overall a very strong emphasis on ecological improvement of the whole 12-acre area. As depicted in this next slide, the surface parking lots are being transformed into park space, including, again, a major component of the San Diego River Trail, which Glenn mentioned, which will eventually connect and run along, connect the ocean to the west to the upper elevations and the mountains to the east. So that's part of the River Park Master Plan, and will include significant gateway and interpretive elements that speak to the history of the river in this area. And again, this is a project that is very much focused on the San Diego River and will provide a valuable asset, not just for hotel guests, but for residents of Mission Valley as part of that 28,000 unit growth. And as depicted here, a new pedestrian bridge across the San Diego River was a big part of the project. The previous bridge was not ADA compliant, and as Glenn mentioned, this project is under construction and in fact will be nearing completion in the next month or two. And I encourage you all to come down and visit the Town and Country River Park between Town and Country and Fashion Valley Mall.
Great, thank you, Rick. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Vita. Vita is located north of Friars and in between 163 and 805. As many of you recall, this was a sand and gravel mine for about 70 years and has transformed into an urban walkable village. There are a number of parks throughout this development, which has eventually could have close to 4,800 units, 900 square feet of commercial office. But our park spaces, close to 18 acres of park spaces, are really going to be interesting spaces. We have a number of pocket parks and things around the development, but I want to talk about the main portion of the park, which we call Vita Park. It really runs down the center of the development. But first I want to recognize the Grant family who have owned the land for centuries, and their partners, the Sudbury family and Sudbury Properties, who are developing it. They have just been very special clients and have really wanted to create a family legacy that they leave for all of San Diego. And so real proud of being able to work with them and the commitment they've made to quality. Of course, besides working with the families, we worked a lot with the community and had a number of community workshops, got a lot of feedback, but also were inspired by Mission Valley itself and the site. So the upper two slides show the valley is really, even when it was agricultural, it was a series of parcels and then this meandering river, same as the urban condition, and then some of the shapes within the sand and mining equipment inspired some of the forms in our park, which is that red promenade and the river that we put along the west side of the park. This is we call it Vita Creek, which captures all the water quality throughout. So there are kind of two sections of the park. The right side of the park, which is the East Park, which is more of this formal promenade along the urban edge. And then along the western edge, it's more natural. It's this meandering creek bed with these drop structures that actually flow during rain events. And that creates a really interesting, diverse character of the park. The master plan itself, it actually rises about 150 feet from Vita Boulevard to the top. Our first phase was completed 2017. which include a number of amenities. We have a large celebration plaza, we call it, with open space and this interactive water and game tables. We also have a very large amphitheater structure there. And this plaza space is used for celebrations. We have farmers markets and all sorts of events, including this amphitheater. We call it Cloud Amphitheater, inspired by clouds in the valley, where they have a number of summer concerts each summer, which are free to the public. We also had a number of different interesting details kind of weaved in throughout. We worked with James Nelson and T.J. Dixon on telling this interesting story about the history of the families here that were part of the development, the Grant family. And we have these series of bunnies, these bronze bunnies throughout, and they're almost kind of breadcrumbs. They lead you up to what we call the Vita stone, which you have to search for with your kids when you get there. But even like these areas that we have, we call them the living rooms, which are these large vine structures. We have some of the bronze sculptures right there on the couch to sit with you. So really interesting things throughout. We have a large area for multi-purpose activities, a large field. We have basketball. There's actually a community garden with a fully restored 1955 Porsche tractor that sits out front. And at night, that interactive water becomes a really beautiful display. One of the features that was originally designed in the specific plan, which actually Rick was involved in, was it was called Quarry Falls. And the idea was to have this kind of Las Vegas style waterfall. And what we did was we created this, the falls, the Vita Falls, but it is a natural waterfall that captures watershed from the surrounding communities. So during rain events, this waterfall flows, and it's quite fun to see it going off during storm events. And as you see, there's a stairway that leads up to the upper level, which has a dog park, and you go through a really beautiful tunnel that has artwork, a really large mural created by Kevin Anderson. That's really fun to visit as well. And up above there, we have off-leash dog park. Most recently, we just opened phase 2, which fills in different activities that were missing in phase 1. Phase 1 was opened in 2017. And here we have an overlook of phase 2. Starting down below, we actually have an exhibit that honors the mining history of the site with mining equipment that we tagged when they disassembled the mining operations, large tractor. And right above that is a number of children's play areas. This is a toddler area with a shade structure. We have some logs that were salvaged from redwood trees that were moved from Balboa Park. But this whole area of the playground especially is inspired by the forms of the mining operation, the way in which they terraced and sculpted the hillside. So the playground has this over 100 foot of climbing walls as part of the terraced and paying homage to the mining operations that were there once before. Right above that, we have a terrace with a game area with a bocce court, picnicking, and game tables. Above that, we have a series of gardens, which you can stroll through with the meandering pathways and stairway with all sorts of colors and textures and plant materials. We have 3 different themes: a succulent garden, a scent garden, and a wing garden to attract butterflies and birds. And there's interpretive panels, and many of the plants are labeled. And then up at the very top, we have what we call Lookout Meadow, which is at the base of those stairs in the falls for events and activities. And one of the focal points there is this frame. One of the Grant cousin, Kent Grant, passed away during our planning stages, and he loved photography, and we thought it would be fitting to have an Instagram moment at the top of the park there for everyone to enjoy. So that's a quick tour of Vita Park, and Rick's gonna show you the River Discovery Center at Grant Park.
Well, thank you, Glenn, and I take a few minutes to talk about the San Diego River Discovery Center at Grant Park. It is called Grant Park because it also came about through the generosity of the Grant family, as Glenn just showed some fantastic images of the Grant family as part of the previous slides. So this project began many years ago, in fact, during the development of the Quarry Falls / Vita specific plan. And it is a very, very unique project that is being led by Rob Hutzel at the San Diego River Park Foundation, and is transforming a key site in Mission Valley that was also previously a gravel mining operation. So as you can see here on the next slide, the project is currently designed as a series of 1- and 2-story buildings. This is located on the corner of Qualcomm and Camino del Rio North, just north of Interstate 8. So you can see the site here with the buildings forming an L shape, which was designed that way to actually block some of the freeway noise from infiltrating into the outdoor spaces. The San Diego River is just on the top side of this graphic. So in addition to the buildings, there are significant trails, outdoor improvements. This will be a city park. It will be open to the public and will be also the site for many school children tours during the week, weekend visits with residents and workers in the area. And there's also facilities planned for weddings and outdoor music events. So it's a very unique amenity and will be very cherished. The key part of this project is the recreation of the San Diego River as depicted here. So when we began the design of the project, we knew that we could not physically get to the river due to environmental restrictions as well as topography constraints. So we sought to recreate the entire 52-mile length of the San Diego River within a couple hundred feet on the north side of the building. And so this will be, this is the genesis of that project. So you can see each of these 4 sections were designed to simulate the headwaters, the dams and reservoirs, the valley, the Mission Valley area, and then finally the estuary at the Pacific Ocean. And so when this project is realized and fully constructed and is under construction now, as Glenn mentioned, this will be a fantastic outdoor play environment, but a learning environment for children, and it's tied directly into the building, as you can see here. So the river play itself is that crescent-shaped structure or area in the middle of the plan. So as you see here in the plan, the headwaters are on the right, and then we go into an area called dams and reservoirs, the Mission Valley area, which will celebrate the agricultural history of the Mission Valley, and then finally the estuary on the far left, where kids will actually be able to dig in the sand and find fossils as part of our nature-based play area. The building includes a number of great facilities designed by R&T architects, an interpretive center, an outdoor cafe, a community gathering area, and then private meeting rooms, private offices for the River Park Foundation, and finally a river lab that's dedicated to exploring the health and welfare of the San Diego River. That will all be publicly viewable from inside the building. This is a view perched basically above the San Diego River, looking south towards the river play. You can see the buildings in the background. So this is our illustration of what that river play area will look like. It'll be a fantastic amenity, as I mentioned, for kids of all ages, school buses, outdoor learning programs. We've also included in the design a touch pool, much like some of you may have seen at SeaWorld and other facilities in the area, where kids can actually stick their hand in the water and interact with different forms of water creatures. And then finally, the view from the river looking south again towards the building, which again is a series of 2-story and 1-story buildings. This large lawn area in the foreground is what we call the festival lawn, and will be the site for outdoor events, weddings, non-amplified music concerts, and also will be part of the overall learning and education program for the Discovery Center at Grant Park.
Great, thank you, Rick. And finally, I'm going to give you a quick tour of SDSU, San Diego State Mission Valley. This is a development that was approved by the voters and actually broke ground just about a week or 2 ago, which we're very excited about. It's at the what I typically call the Qualcomm Stadium site, the old Jack Murphy Stadium. And here they're going to be building a significant development and a significant park open to the public. And by the way, all of the presentations, all of the things that we're talking about are open to the public. And that's what's really exciting about what is happening in Mission Valley, is the public facilities and benefit that these projects provide. The project that's under construction now will start with a 35,000 seat stadium for Aztec football and other events. And that is the blue area here. And on this map, the upper road is Fires Road. The freeway to the right there to the east is I-15. And then along the south side is the San Diego River. Just south of the stadium there is a future campus. This is a research and innovation hub. Also include a lot of joint use parking that will be used for the park. Just west of the stadium, you see there's two fields. Those are going to be ball fields except during game day, where they will be used for overflow parking. North of the stadium is a future hotel, and then a large section to the east there that's the mustard color. There's about 4,600 residential units, apartments. And then featured along the whole south side and east side is a large river park available to the public. A big part of the concept is the hydrology. And of course, the illustration on the left shows you our current condition, where during high storm events, the entire parking lot floods, as does the field. But once the project is complete, the main development will be raised to allow water to flow to the east and the south. And our park will be designed to accommodate that 100-year flood condition. And it also creates this great meaningful interface between open space, the park, and the development. We have view corridors and trail corridors that connect to the park throughout. And I like to call this a green sponge. It's really taking what is now the largest open parking lot west of the Mississippi and turning it into a much more permeable and much more rich environment that the public can enjoy. We spent a lot of time working with the public. We had a number of community workshops. We have a River Park Advisory Committee that we are continuing to work with. Even though the park or the project has broken ground, we're still working through the planning and design of the park and facility. We do have the San Diego River Trail that runs, another connection to the San Diego River Trail. We also have about 8 miles of pathways and a large loop trail around the development. We're planning 6 fields. I mentioned the 2 tailgate parks. We also have 4 fields. These are multi-purpose open space fields for all sorts of different activities and sports. But a big part of it, like Riverwalk and like many of our other projects we're talking about, is connecting with the San Diego River. It's really a special facility for San Diego. We want people to be aware of it and to connect with it. But we can't invite, as Rick had mentioned, because of environmental constraints, we can't just invite people into the river. We have a passive zone, a buffer along the south and the east from that more sensitive habitat. So what we're doing is we're creating improvements within the development that have a river-like character to them. So we have swales and basins. This is kind of a character depiction of what those will look like. This idea that you are aware that you're near a river body. We also will be incorporating a lot of native plant material throughout the park. Kind of zooming in here on the west portion of the park, just to the left side of the screen here is the Mission Valley Library and Fenton Parkway. That actually will become a bridge across the river, Fenton Parkway, eventually. And you can see that we have 3 large flexible open fields, but also what we have here, what I like to call the ribbon of shade. So we have this elevated trolley track that runs through the entire length of the development, and it's about 50 foot wide, about 20-25 feet above the park. And so we're, when we're designing our parks, we oftentimes are trying to figure out how to get more shade. Trees take a while to mature, and large shade structures are expensive. So we have this built-in ribbon of shade. So what we're doing is we're aligning many of the activities underneath that shade. So we have this play and picnic zone in particular, where we have all sorts of activities: children's play, open game area, picnicking, fitness area, basketball, and so forth. Those will be all underneath this ribbon of shade. And we have a few artist renderings here. This is taken from this vantage point in existing conditions. And this is what we anticipate that will look like when we incorporate our activities underneath that ribbon of shade. Then you look at the central part of the park. It's where the current station, trolley station is. That will remain. Adjacent to that is a future recreation center. This will be built by the city of San Diego in the future. But in front of the trolley station, we're going to have a large trolley plaza. This will have a large area for bus drop-off and transit connection, but also a big open plaza space for flexible activities. These are some precedent types of character images of what that could look like. And this is that station itself. Now the station also incorporates, has a lot of shade behind it, and it's kind of underneath and behind the main activities. And so what we are proposing is to activate that, inspired by the Underpass Park in Toronto, have a little skate area underneath the portion of the station that's kind of back of house to get more active activity there. South of this trolley station there, we have a large water quality basin. This captures water from throughout the development and purifies it, and again, makes that kind of wetland kind of character and river-like character that is a big part of what we are trying to accomplish with the park image and the park character. This is another artist rendering from above on the station of existing conditions, and then what that will look like with the large basin in the foreground and the overlook, the fields, the buffers to the left there, the native area, and then that ribbon of activity underneath the trolley. We're also incorporating a lot of overlooks and environmental education. This is San Diego State University. They want this to be a place where students and faculty can go for research and as well. And we have lots of opportunity for interpretive education, flora and fauna, and the cultural history of the site. And then the last section is River Park East, we call it, which parallels I-15, but more importantly, the Murphy Canyon Creek along that edge there. And on the north side of that, we have an off-leash dog park that is planned. And then a big portion of this section, the linear portion of the park here, will be passive open space and trails, more primitive trails and bike trails. And we also connect to the Murphy Canyon Hike and Bike Trail to the north. And this is also incorporating that river-like character with a creek bed there. This is another simulation looking at the existing conditions. This is great because we've got great material here for the before. There's nothing but asphalt, and we're going to turn this into this beautiful passive park with trails, the creek bed, and then you can see in the background there the children's play, and this children's play will be more nature play oriented. And then finally, the connection between that East Park and the rest of the River Park is an underpass that will, this is a before again, and then afterward. And we have traffic coming from Rancho Mission Road that will be able to pass over this pedestrian underpass so that no one has to interact with the cars as they enter the site. So that's an overview of SDSU Mission Valley, which concludes our tour of our sites, our 5 sites throughout Mission Valley. And these mention that there's a lot of development that will occur, but we want to emphasize that this is well over 200 acres of open space and parkland that will be available to the public. We've got over 20 miles of trails, including almost 2 miles extension of the San Diego River Trail. We also, in closing, want to give special recognition and thank the owners, the folks that are responsible for these projects, the Sudbury family and Sudbury Properties, the Grant family, of course, we've mentioned many times, Rob Hutzel from San Diego River Park Foundation, Todd Major from Lowe's Enterprise, and then President Adela De La Torre and all of San Diego State University for their work on a beautiful facility that they're creating. So really thank you for tuning in and watching. This is our emails for myself and Rick and Mark. You're welcome to shoot us an email if you have questions and want to discuss things that we presented with us. we're happy to chat with you, and just want to say thank you very much, and be safe out there, and congrats to the San Diego Design Week 2020. Thank you.